Everyone goes New England IPA, and I love New England IPAs, but it's devilishly competitive. And I struggle to think that it's going to last forever, and I just, not every New England IPA can sell. That's just not possible. Whereas a really solid lager made as a craft beer, it seems to work for us.
And that was Jeff from ZēLUS Beer Company on this week's episode of Brew Roots.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brew Roots, where we tell the stories behind your favorite beer. This is Sound Guy Ryan, and joining me, as always, is Erica.
Hello.
What's going on?
You know, another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise.
The year of COVID.
The year of COVID. Well, I mean, you can't be doing too bad. You got a pretty good Bentwater seltzer in your hand.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I mean, this must be their first seltzer, I guess, because I don't think I've seen seltzer from them before.
I have. I've just never tried it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm
it's
just
been
late
out
to the game.
for a
It's
while.
cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
You were definitely late to the game. But yeah, I remember them having it at least when, I want to say when COVID first started.
Right.
Like it's been multiple months,
well,
as far as I know.
That's cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I haven't had one yet. I bought it, and
I
Erica was
recommend
the first one to grab one.
I saw it in that fridge, and I took advantage. And it's delicious.
Is it?
No regrets.
So I'm about to crack open a Flying Dreams beer. It's their, how do you pronounce this, Erica? That's like too complicated for me.
Syzygy.
Okay, Syzygy IPA. Yeah. So this is an IPA.
Good job.
With Belgian yeast, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, brewed with Belgian yeast instead of like the typical IPA yeast strains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, it smells really good.
Oh, does it? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that's like one of the best IPAs I've ever had. No, hands down. That Belgian yeast really, it stands out.
It's different, right? It stands out. Gives
yep.
it a little bit of different, more obviously Belgian flavor.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's an IPA with those hops and bitter.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more people should do that. Experiment with different yeasts. I like every beer that I have, like it's like a yeast that they use that's not really used for that style. I always find interesting. And I always love them.
Well, just make it. Yeah, it makes it different.
Yeah,
it makes it kind of stand out.
I think that's why I like them. It's like, oh, this is different. It doesn't taste like the normal
usual IPA.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, great job, Flying Dreams. They're out in Worcester, right?
Yeah, in the Worcester area. Worcester. Where's the other one?
I have the can in front of me.
Marlborough, I think.
If I knew how to read, I'd be able to brew and Flying Dreams. Worcester. No, it's in Worcester.
Yeah, no, they have 2 locations though.
Oh, they do?
I think their main hub's in Worcester, and the other one, I want to say, is in Marlborough.
Marlborough.
Maybe.
All right. Yeah. So still western part of the state.
Yeah. Well, central. That's central.
Yep. Well,
west of here.
West of here. Yes. So, Erica, what have you been drinking this week?
Oh, what have I been drinking indeed? Well, over the weekend, I actually went up to Maine. I went to Portland.
Nice.
Yep.
You didn't go to any of the places we told you to go to.
That's true. That's just how I roll. Went to Maine Beer Company because I've never actually been there.
I haven't been there either.
Right?
I've only
It
had the
seems
stuff that I get in
weird.
stores, like
Right.
lunch, like
Yeah.
Maine lunch, right?
Exactly. So I went up there and I didn't have lunch.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, they had a Pilsner on tap, which was excellent.
Oh, awesome.
It was so clean. It was really good. And then we stopped at a few other places.
Yep.
We went to Banded Souls. I'm sorry, Banded Horn.
Banded Horn.
Barreled Souls.
Barreled Souls, yeah. So Banded Horn is now just Banded, as far as I know.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Just
we
Banded.
interviewed them way back.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, really great beer. All the places we stopped at, and
That's awesome.
went to Urban Farm. They had some cool stuff. I had a cider that was they did like a session cider that was cider mixed with one of their kombuchas.
Ooh.
It was actually really cool. It made it like kind of more funky.
Yeah. Well, it's different.
It was different.
It goes
like we
back
just talked
to
about.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it was really pretty cool. Just a lot of great beer that day.
Now, did you notice with Maine lunch? And I don't know with Maine brewing is like, do they just bottle or do they have cans as well? Because I've only seen bottles.
Just bottle.
Okay.
But that's a good question.
Yeah, I've only seen bottles in the
Yeah.
stores. So
No, same. Huh.
Interesting.
We should interview them and ask them.
Well, we
about
really
that.
should. I mean, we have always talked about doing another, huge Maine trip.
We should.
And
It's been a
there's the
while.
thing with Maine and most of New England is you can just do a whole bunch of trips in the multiple, like you can do multiple trips in
Do
the
a
same
full
area.
week there.
Yeah.
In
like,
Portland alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've only
Yeah.
interviewed a handful of them,
Right.
For
sure.
So yeah, who knows?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
You never know who's
And
going
I
to be
guess we need to
next.
go back to Worcester too for Flying Dreams.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So, I mean, for me, this weekend I went over to Framingham, and everyone knows what's in Framingham. You got Exhibit A, and then you got Jack's Abbey. Now, Jack's Abbey, I rolled up. They weren't accepting walk-ins. I was super
Womp,
disappointed.
womp. It's reservations only, just so
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, don't
Which
do what I did, was
happens.
just drive an hour to
Yeah.
Jack's Abbey.
Without researching first.
Well, so this is the thing, is I went to their website, and it said, you can make a reservation here. I thought that was like more of a suggestion and not mandatory. Like
Gotcha.
you have to make a reservation.
Yeah.
I thought, if you don't make a reservation, you might just have to wait,
Yeah.
15, 30 minutes.
Right.
Totally fine with that. Cool. Whatever.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So I
Better
was
luck next
wrong.
time.
But there's good news. I was able to use my Shirts on Tap coupon.
Ooh,
that-
exciting.
This month was
last month.
Last month's box was Springdale,
Yeah.
which is a side project of Jack's Abbey, and you get a little swag bag. So I got a really cool glass, I got a cool pin, couple stickers, and a really badass bottle opener.
Whoop, whoop.
Which most of the time, if
That's
you were to
pretty cool.
try to buy all those stuff, that'd be
All
like
you had to do was
25, 30
pay
bucks.
$10-20 for the shirt.
It's 25.
Well, either way, you get the shirt,
Yeah.
and then you got all that stuff
And
on
you-
top of it.
Well, that's just it.
That's
Like
awesome.
The coupons make it worth it. And I want to say 2 months ago, it could have been 3 months. It was Extrava Brewing up in Portland.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure I received 2 coupons
Ooh.
from that brewery,
Oh, interesting.
which was very different. I was like,
Surprise.
what?
Lucky you.
So I do have a few Portland coupons from, actually more than
reason
more
why
than
we
a
have to
few.
go up to Portland.
Yeah. So yeah, these coupons are legit. The guy had no idea what it was, but he asked his manager,
That does oftentimes happen, actually, guys.
and they were like, "Oh yes, we can do this." They were like so pumped.
Oh,
they were
that's awesome.
super pumped. They're like, "Yeah." That's all I heard was yes.
It worked.
Yeah. So I got my little swag. They called it a swag bag. It was actually a swag bag in a glass. Wasn't in a bag.
That's fine.
But I was
It's
totally
cool.
chill with
Swag
that.
glass.
Swag glass. So I picked up a couple stuff from them. I picked up like a Springdale IPA. I have yet to try that.
Yep.
But then I picked up Jack's Abbey's Hoppy Variety Pack. Came with Hoponius Union, and then a few of their other specialty.
Galaxy in the brew house or something like that?
Yeah, it was like Brow. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yep.
It was a Galaxy Brow, Nelson Brow, and then something else. But everything was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that was like the best Hoponius Union I've ever had.
You were actually saying their latest Copper Legend
Yes,
is the best so far.
Yeah,
Like from
I
past
don't-
years.
I don't know if they changed anything, but it wasn't as sweet as I remember last year. Again, it could be me.
Yeah.
It could be me.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really like wicked sweet malty,
Oktoberfest
styles.
or like, fest beers in general can go
Like,
either way.
Yeah,
they could be
exactly.
really sweet and malty, or they could be not so sweet.
Yeah, it kind of reminds like when I tried my dad's non-alcoholic beer. That's what it's the only thing he
There's
can
a
drink.
non-alcoholic Oktoberfest out there from
There
Athletic.
is from Athletic. I've been trying to find that.
You should find that. I want to find it too.
I went to Georgetown Liquors
Whoever finds it first.
because it said that they carried it.
Right.
I asked one of the people there. They didn't have any of Athletic Brewing.
Yeah.
But she made a note to ask the owner to see if she can get some in.
Right.
And I told her it was for my father. And I also said, I'm very interested in trying this because a lot of the reviews I say is that it doesn't.
It
like,
looks pretty good. I mean, from what I've heard, when I've seen people posting.
don't know that it's non-alcoholic.
Yeah, no, it
which
sounds
is
pretty
like mind-blowing. But yeah, it's in the alcohol percentage where my father can drink it. So I've been trying to find him a good alternative to his really sweet,
O'Doul's or whatever.
It's like Clausen or something.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's in a green bottle. It's super sweet. Like,
it makes. I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, the yeast doesn't eat the sugar,
correct.
Right? So
exactly.
It's tough to get that sugar out of there.
And I'm sure there's different ways of doing non-alcoholic beer.
Oh yeah.
But not having the yeast eat all the sugar makes the most sense.
Right.
That's like the easy way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like from just like knowing the principles, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what I've been drinking this week.
Solid stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then just another thing is with the Mass Brew Bros, definitely keep up to date to see what they're posting. I know last week we mentioned they had some like pumpkin beer, like where you can get some pumpkin beers.
Yeah, they did an Oktoberfest one as well.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely give them a follow. They're always posting beer updates from the area.
And they're two very busy guys. So during quarantine we saw a lot of articles, and then now they're kind of
seeing much more beer stops at like the different breweries. So
correct. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Bob has been going at it hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was in this area, and I was super upset that he didn't text us.
Didn't even hit us up.
No.
Come on, Bob.
Come on, Bob. I know you're listening. Do better.
Seriously.
So I would say, without further ado, we can head to our episode.
Yeah. No. Definitely. On that note. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it, folks. But yeah, so until next week.
Cheers.
All right. So, Erica, where are we?
We are in Medfield.
I asked you that because I did think I knew that, but I didn't want to be like, ugh.
Definitely. I knew it. I know everything.
And our listeners wouldn't have known this unless I said it, but this is our second take because I screwed up the name of the brewery the first time. So what's the name of the brewery, Erica?
ZēLUS.
ZēLUS.
Yeah.
Not ZēLUS.
Nailed it.
ZēLUS.
Yes.
Which is important to name it correctly.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And we're here with Jeff, not Geoff, not Geoffrey. Jeff.
Correct.
All right.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Not bad.
Fabulous.
Not bad. The heat came out today. I don't know what happened. It was nice and cool this morning, and now it's a little toasty out.
It's been a very humid summer.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
for sure.
Yeah. Interesting summer as well. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So we start our podcast by asking our guests, what is your first memory of beer and your role at the brewery?
My first memory of beer is, I'm from England originally, and so the drinking age in England is younger than it is in the United States. So it's 18, but I was drinking before 18, as many people probably do. And it's probably drinking something like a Lowenbau or Stella Artois, which are kind of the higher alcohol lagers available in the UK. There really weren't that many varieties available, I felt like. You'd have Guinness, you'd have a bunch of sort of these high-end lagers, and then not so high-end lagers. Not many IPAs. And the English IPA is really not like an American IPA is today anyway. So that answers your first question.
Yeah.
And my role at the brewery is I am the founder. I founded ZēLUS in 2015. We didn't actually go into production and distribution until 2017.
Okay.
Cool.
And we've had many changes since then, I will add.
Yeah. So tell us about life before ZēLUS. What was the original plan for you?
I probably have more than one plan, but I'm from the United Kingdom, and I moved to the United States in the early 2000s, and I moved with a shoe company, and I developed shoes.
All right.
And so I've done some designing, directed, and built some brands. And then eventually there were some changes in the company, and I left by my own choice. And I was trying to think of what I should do, and I thought I enjoyed beer. I also wanted to do something which you could make locally. A lot of products these days are not made locally. And so I thought beer was a good product, and it's something you could also make yourself. And I've always been a runner, a swimmer, and I became a triathlete. And I sort of wanted to put them all together. And I realized that a lot of people who go and do these events, these races, and run, they also drink a lot of beer. mostly after the event, after training sessions. And I also noticed that no one had really developed a beer for that crowd. So I did some research and started developing a beer which I thought would work for them and everyone else.
Yeah. Now, I've always been fascinated. Why do runners, triathletes drink beer after a race? Is there a scientific thing behind it, or is it just because they like beer?
I think it's primarily because they like beer, honestly. But I think there is a reward part to it too. Like, if you're running or doing anything like that, it's a lot of effort, and I think a beer afterwards helps relax you, and and it's also the social part of it. A lot of people who run and do these things, there's lots of clubs and stuff. It's a big social event, and then beer helps with that.
Yeah.
There are a few benefits of drinking beer after these things, but I think primarily it's the social.
Very cool.
What would be one of the benefits? Just getting those nutrients back in your body, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things in beer which are, could be seen as beneficial afterwards. Mostly beer is a dehydrator, but if you get really low alcohol levels, then the dehydration effect is less. But there are certain nutrients and electrolytes in beer which can be seen as beneficial.
Yeah. Were you toying around with any other ideas, or was beer kind of just like where you wanted to go?
I was toying around with apparel development. I wasn't really toying around with shoe development, but definitely apparel development. I kind of wanted to build a company which would be beer and apparel, performance apparel.
Yep.
Because I felt like there was a big kind of crossover in the communities, which no one had really harnessed. And I still believe that quite strongly.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of press, I think, partly because other people know it, Yeah. So, yes, that was the other part of it.
Yeah. So you mentioned you wanted to create a beer that was good for athletes and other people, right?
Yes.
What makes a beer good for athletes? What were you trying to do?
Well, I found a scientist, he's a brewing scientist, but he has a biochemistry PhD, and he'd been brewing for many years. We ended up discussing water profiles, and we thought it was the best angle to go at in terms of, making a beer. Just because brewers always play with their water profiles. And there's lots of reasons to play with them. And we thought we could do it in a way which would be useful. One of the things is you can't, there's a governing body called the TTB, and you can't really make health statements about beer. So I don't make too many health statements. I usually let other people make the health statements one way or another. But I think it is true that beer has some benefits after exercise.
So you changed the water profile a little bit, and then is your beer also low ABV to kind of?
Yeah. We would basically adjust water profiles using salts, and the salts had more than one purpose, and one of the purpose was to make the beer more flavorful at lower ABVs. Okay. So when you get lower ABVs, it's a real challenge to make your beer as flavorful. I don't think consumers or even some brewers realize this because they don't really go that low in ABV. It's never really a goal for them to do. But if you look at Untapped, for example, all the highest rated beer, they're all even New England IPAs. Yeah, they're all 8%, 9%, and Imperial Stouts really rank highly. So compared to our beers, we're kind of trying to compete with them with a few hands tied behind our back. Right. And one of the ways we do that is with salts. And, some of the salts can add flavors, and they can also buttress the mouthfeel. One of the biggest problems you have is beer gets watery at lower alcohol contents because you have less grain in there. Mm-hmm. And so we use calcium chloride, we use a lot of flake grains, all of them, and maltodextrin. All of these things help to have a much thicker product than you typically would have. Yeah. So I believe anyway, our lowest alcohol beer, which is a 3.7% New England IPA, which I think is still it's still unique in the market.
Yeah.
Is I've lost my train of thought. But it's a very low alcohol beer, and I believe it's lower than Bud Light. And I would challenge anyone to say that our beer has less flavor than Bud Light does. Yeah. And I would also challenge people to compare our beers to other people's beer if they were like, unpackaged. Some of them, we have a porter now which we just rebrewed and we changed the recipe slightly, and it's now my favorite beer we have. It's called Light into Dark, and it's only a 4.7% beer.
Nice.
And I would challenge anyone to, without packaged beer, to know how low alcohol it is.
Wow.
All right.
So that means you can drink a little bit more as well and not feel the effects. So does that go back to, the sessionable style that is popular in England and hopefully getting a little bit more popular here?
Yes, I definitely think it's getting more popular here. Our beers, suddenly we changed a lot of packaging too, which has had a fantastic effect. But also I think people are going lower in alcohol. People have realized they can't drink that much of, high alcohol beer.
Right.
Especially if they have children or driving.
Yeah, exactly.
The name ZēLUS, where does that come from?
So ZēLUS is the Greek god of competition and rivalry.
Yeah.
It's Nike's brother.
Okay.
Who is the Greek god of victory.
Okay, so you couldn't name it Nike.
No. Right.
We tried that. But,
yeah.
Somebody else has it.
And I kind of wanted a short name. And I didn't want to name it kind of what it is, which is what some people do with their brands, but I wanted it to sort of stand alone. There aren't really any beer brands beginning with Z or Z, as you say in England, either. So I thought it would kind of stand on its own. And it would, over time, it would become more recognizable. And be like, oh, that's ZēLUS. I know ZēLUS.
Yeah.
Or ZēLUS. Well, some people also pronounce it ZēLUS.
Oh, ZēLUS. That was kind of fun.
I struggle to see how they get that from the spelling. But, yeah.
Was there ever another name that you wanted to name it, or was this the one that was just...
I actually found probably the hardest thing about building a brand was naming it.
We hear that a lot.
It was really, really hard. I had lots and lots and lots of names. And one of the problem is a lot of them are used or taken in some form or another.
Yeah.
Whether it's a beer or a company. Yeah.
Or a company. And so, no, there were definitely... I can't think of any right now, which is strange. But no, I had a lot of names, 30 plus names.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And then they also had to be available on... because it's not just they're not unused, they also have to be available for websites too.
Right.
And a lot of websites are kind of
just taken for the hell of it.
Just taken, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with that because you can try and buy them, but then the seller may not even be alive anymore. I think, quite honestly.
Right.
So you mentioned a rebrand of your can art.
Yes.
You had quite simple can art. I've seen it in the stores before. Your name pretty bold at the top, and then what the beer was, and that was quick to the point.
Yes.
Now your can art is incorporating some drawings. I see. When did that start? When did that rebrand kind of start for you?
I think we launched with the Weekender. It was a new beer, and we relaunched with that.
That's like a Jeep, correct?
That is actually it's a Land Rover.
Land Rover. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
British car. Yeah.
British.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather had one growing up.
Yep.
My wife also loves them, and my wife actually designed all our new cans.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool.
She's a talented artist, and why are you asking why we did it? Or?
Yeah.
I think the old ones were a bit stale and a bit boring, frankly. I don't think they really. I don't think they jumped off the shelf, and I don't think they spoke to the brand enough. And I will say, since we went to the new cans, we've had a dramatic change in our sales, which is intriguing, right? But it's definitely true.
Yeah.
For the better.
Yeah.
And also since then, we've launched in a bunch of states.
Oh, very
and
cool.
once you get rolling because you reach out to other states and you tell them the sales from certain states. So we're in a bit of a unique situation. Well, it's probably not unique at all, but I like to think it is. A lot of beer brands have gone very local. Tap rooms. That was never what I thought this brand could be. I always thought it could be bigger than that, and it's proven the case. I know a lot of like large local brands struggle a little bit when they go out of state. It hasn't totally been our situation. It's
nice
because we don't identify. I mean, we're based in Medfield and we have a great audience here, and as I say, they're all regulars, and we have a running club, cycling club, or at least associated with them. We go to other states. The concept works just as well there as it does here. It's it's universal. Right. I'd like to get to the UK at one point. But that's a challenge.
So where are you right now? I know did you just go to Rhode Island, or was it New Jersey?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Everyone mixes those two up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just started a new distributor. So we'll be in the whole of Massachusetts for the first time, in Rhode Island. We're in Connecticut, the west of Connecticut, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We were meant to launch in Tennessee in the spring, but a mixture of tornadoes and coronavirus stopped that. And even in Pennsylvania, we didn't launch with kegs because all the bars were closed.
Oh, jeez. Right.
I'm optimistic about going to New York very shortly. Well, I probably shouldn't say that because that will probably
jinx you.
Hopefully
not.
No, you're just optimistic about it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just being optimistic.
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
And then we've got to have other states too who are interested. Because as I said, once you sell in one state, there's not really any reason to say it's not going to sell in another state.
Right.
It's just...
Yeah.
Why is it selling, in your opinion?
I think the can art is dramatic in its effects. I think Weekend is a great name, very relatable. It moves a little bit away from our concept, but still hangs on to it. If our concept's kind of active lifestyle. We were originally going to call it Weekend Warrior, but I discovered that InBev or Budweiser own that name. So.
Oh, interesting.
That is interesting.
I'm not surprised. I'm sure it's like some Bud Light trademark
something
or something.
Other, yeah.
I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, right.
So we went with Weekender. And also it's a lager in the craft market, and everyone goes New England IPA.
Mm-hmm.
And I love New England IPAs, but it's devilishly competitive.
Yeah.
It is.
And I struggle to think that it's going to last forever. And I just, not every New England IPA can sell. That's just not possible. Whereas a really solid lager made as a craft beer, it seems to work for us.
Yeah,
and it's allowed us to, it's grown our other beer brands. Our second one in retail, is the Race Pace, which is because it's unique.
Yep.
And so there are two biggest beers which sell through nicely.
Yeah. So those are your flagships?
They are, yes. Yeah. Although Race Pace has been very difficult to brew, I will say. To execute, it's a tough beer. 3.7% New England IPA is not easy.
Not easy, yeah.
Definitely.
Because you just don't have as much protein in there to give you the
body,
the cloudiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This has been a great interview so far, but before we continue, let's take a quick break, crack open a fresh beer, and hear a quick word from our sponsors.
Did you know that your favorite Massachusetts breweries use hops from a local family-owned hop farm right here in Massachusetts?
Our friends over at 4 Star Farms are there for you whether you're a commercial brewery or a small batch home brewer.
Make sure to head over to their website today and get your hands on some of the best and freshest hops available locally. Cheers.
At our local homebrew shop, Beer and Wine Hobby, you can get everything you need to make beer, wine, cider, cheese, and more. Not sure where to start? They have knowledgeable staff there to help. Beer and Wine Hobby is family-owned and located in Danvers, Massachusetts. Visit their website, beer-wine.com, and use our promo code Brew Roots for 10% off your online order today. This week's episode would not be possible without our amazing sponsor, Shirts on Tap.
Each month, they team up with breweries from across the country and create a custom shirt and deliver it to your doorstep, along with stickers and coupons.
Sign up today using the promo code Brew Roots for $5 off your first box.
Head on over to shirtsontap.com today. And remember, drink better beer, wear better shirts.
Who's your brewer?
Well, in the tap room, it's me most of the time. We only do tap room exclusives, and we do some consulting in the tap room too. So we help other people develop their beers.
Very cool. But you contract brew?
We contract other than that, yes.
Where do you contract out of?
Mostly Ipswich.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Great.
So we started in Ipswich, and we've been with them a long time. We have brewed elsewhere too. We did down the road for one batch, and then unfortunately Donovan passed away.
Yeah.
And then Castle Island.
Yep.
So the race place is now brewed in Castle Island.
A little bit closer for you.
It's much more convenient than Ipswich. But Ipswich, they brew the Weekender, the Competitor, and the Light into Dark.
Yeah.
And if we're working on a gluten-free beer too, and
nice.
They brew the Celia, which is pretty much the biggest gluten beer in the local area. It's not the biggest nationally, I don't think, but.
So this would be 100% gluten-free, or is it gluten intolerant?
It would be 100% gluten-free.
Wow.
There would be no ingredients with gluten, in them. So no barley, no wheat, no rye.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's tricky.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Gluten-free beer brewing is not easy.
No.
A lot of syrups and partial mashes.
Yeah.
Trying to get that balance.
It's fun though. Actually, it's interesting because I've brewed a lot and it's actually kind of a challenge. I kind of like it. It's like it's just different. So you have to execute things differently.
Yeah.
But it's more difficult to judge from the beginning to the end because the amount of grain, you're not putting much grain in there. So I did one the other day, and it was basically flaked oats and quinoa in the mash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like your dinner or something.
Right.
And then we added other stuff in the boil kettle.
Yeah.
So the mash, we had to put a lot of rice hulls in there just to make sure that it didn't get blocked.
Yeah.
Where did you learn to brew?
I learned at home, pretty much.
Yeah.
I have done a bunch of courses, though. I did one in, I've got to remember the name of it now. It's in California, in Sacramento. Davis.
Okay.
University
UC Davis?
UC
Yeah.
Davis,
Yeah.
yes. Great. I flew over there, and it was great, actually. I had a good time.
Yeah.
And the guys there there was an English guy. I think he's retired now, but there's an English guy who made the course. And I also did a course more locally here, too.
Yeah.
And then the guy who's the sort of brewing science of the operation,
He helped you out.
he's very intelligent.
Yeah.
Much more intelligent than I am.
So what has it been like having a business during Corona for you?
That's the biggest problem we had when it happened was that we had kind of started growing quite significantly. We had these opportunities in all these different states. So we're talking to a lot of distributors. Our tap room, which is small, and we don't really rely on a huge amount of revenue, was picking up as well. And it's great in terms of like marketing and the rest of it. But then just to shut everything down and then just not being able to do anything. I mean, we're a pretty low cost enterprise. So, I didn't see any risks of us disappearing, frankly. I mean, we had brewed quite a lot of beer for some of these distributors, and we've had to kind of work through that. But we've got through that. The challenge is that you can't. The challenge is how do you grow, right? Because I will say the other thing is though, we shut down the tap room and all bars closed. We saw a huge uptick in the local accounts for packaged goods, like cans. But it didn't offset enough for us because we just weren't distributed enough. But our distributor in Connecticut definitely kept us going because the beer sold through coronavirus, and I would say we've even grown during coronavirus in Connecticut. So then their bars and stuff are more open than they are here. I think. But the challenge is still, we have how if you get into how do you introduce your product? So we used to sponsor a lot of races and running races, triathlons, cycling races, yoga. This is kind of what we do. And now you can't do any of it. So you can't do tastings in liquor stores, which is difficult for, distributors because, you can't, there's a lot of things you can't do. I think the consumer has got hungry for new things again. I think they've got kind of bored. I don't know what other word to use, but they've got tired of sitting around at home and just, drinking the same old stuff or doing the same old things. They want to get out. They want to do things. So I think they are pushing the envelope a little bit again. But it's tough. I mean, we have a outdoor pop-up in the local town here, which is very popular. Probably a little bit more popular than I thought it was going to be. But it's safe. It's outdoors. And you have all these tables. They're all really far apart. So people can take the mask off when they're sitting down, obviously. And they can feel comfortable. Kids are there. But it's going to get cold here at some point.
It's not.
And I wonder what's going to happen. And maybe we're going to have to open some markets in the south, I think. Texas is something our best state.
Yes, there we go.
The whole running and health and fitness lifestyle, obviously, you're in phenomenal shape, it looks like. But
you can come running with us.
Owning a brewery is such a full-time job. It's a full-time job plus, and I'm sure you have a family. How do you make time to run and do all of that stuff as well?
Well, I actually made a big effort to simplify the whole business.
Yeah.
Because it is complicated. It is time consuming, and I will say that the less events make it a lot less time consuming. I'm not saying that's a good thing, because in terms of your business, I don't think it is. But in terms of time, it suddenly gives you a lot more time. But because we contract brew, so we do have to supply some ingredients to them. We have to move kegs around. So the combination of contract brewing and distributing, using distributors, I've really tried to make it simpler for us. I mean, the tap room still takes a lot of work because the tap room. But I live locally to here. We have 3 or 4 good local bartenders who are very helpful, and many of them are younger than me. I think they're all younger than me, but they're a lot stronger than me. So they can help lift and move stuff around. But yeah, it is a lot of work. The beer industry is complicated because of all the time-related stuff which is involved. Like brewing is, you need to schedule your beer, you need to order your ingredients, you have to brew it, then you have to wait for it to come out, and then you have to get it in. You have to get it into an account. You have to get it to your warehouse. You have to get it into accounts. It is, and then it perishes. So yes, I didn't realize that when I started. I will say that. Yeah. The level of management of the different elements is a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But after time, you do get used to it. You can do it. And, if you can get distributors who can pick your product direct from the contract brewers, you begin to learn ways of doing it to make it much easier, I think. Which comes from relationships too, either with the distributors or the contract brewers. But over time, you get good relationships, and you have a lot more flexibility than when you start. Because when you start, you have to pick up your beer. It just gets easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even making the beer gets easier, because when you first start, it's hard, because if you go from small batches, and I love having the tap room because you at least have medium sort of size. It's not a big system here, but at least it's medium size, so you can scale up from that. Yep. You definitely can scale up from that. But otherwise, it's like you're kind of rolling the dice. You brew a batch, and you hope it's going to be good. And particularly with what we do with our recipes, the beginning was quite hard to get them to execute. It took a lot of. We did 12 test batches, small test batches, before we even went into production.
Wow.
Is this because you're going from 5 gallons to something larger?
Yes, and then because of the salt inputs we have, and because of the other elements, which
it's not a 1-to-1 scale up.
No, it's definitely on a curve.
Yeah.
So, yes, and we've only ever had one really bad batch, which we brewed in Ipswich, and it was tough at the time. It was very early on, but boy, did we learn something from that mistake. Yeah. It really taught us something, because we had to make some changes to our recipes, and we haven't had that issue again.
Good for you.
That's good.
There was actually a time I was like, I don't even know if this is possible. Because when we first started doing what we're doing, I struggle to use the word revolutionary, but no one had really done it before. The amount of salts that we have in our beers, and even the logos that we have on our cans, and the whole concept of our brand. No one had really done it. So each time we've managed to. Now it seems easy because you're looking in the rearview mirror and you're like, well, we've got all this. We've got all this stuff. It's here. But, you know, I didn't know whether we were going to be allowed to have our cans designed with the logo we have and the rest of it. Most of our beers have formulas, so it's just, you know, it just takes time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Are there people who are kind of doing what you did now with the athlete-centric?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are other people.
Yeah. So locally, Mighty Squirrel originally started with that same kind of concept.
Yes.
And they deviated away from that protein beer because of not enough interest in that. How are you keeping the interest?
Well, we have pivoted a little bit, I will say. I mean, we started off, you know, with certain story, but we've pivoted definitely to the low alcohol, the big flavor at low alcohol. Yep. The recipes have not changed. I will say that, as I just said, we did 12 test batches, maybe even 14 before we went to market. So we worked really hard on making sure that what we did was flavor enhancing, and was a natural brewing process. We don't just dump stuff in the beer and just move on. Ours is part of the brewing processes, and I think we've been very, or at least tried to be very true to what the company was founded on, and we haven't stopped. I mean, if you go on any of our social media accounts, you'll see we have a blog once a week for it's called a Fitness Feature Friday, where we feature these different athletes. We've stayed consistent. We didn't suddenly start to chase something else, be it like a New England IPA like everyone else. We have one, and I know how important it is in the market, but we've tried to stay true to what we are, because I think in the end it will work. And I think as we, and at the same time, is, you know, if we were just a new brand with a bunch of New England IPAs, if we go to, like, you know, another state, they have their local brands with a bunch of New England IPAs. We're not unique or even particularly interesting at that point.
Right.
You do sacrifice some stuff with doing that. The higher alcohol beers, which we do some in the tap room, but, you know, there are people who want higher alcohol beers. So gluten-free may be higher alcohol because it's still gluten-free.
Right. Yeah.
So it still fits into the business model.
Yeah. What are some of the grains and tricks that you use for making a gluten-free beer?
I had to start asking a lot of questions, which is kind of what I found it kind of interesting. I got to be honest. I had to find suppliers who could even supply the goods, because the two main suppliers, to my great surprise, I have to say I was really surprised by this. So, you know, Brewers Supply Group and Brewcraft, which is part of Country Malt. Yep. You know, they're great suppliers. They're very good businesses, and, you know, we obviously use them to get grains, and our contract suppliers do. But they don't really have much to offer in the gluten-free world. I'm like, this is weird, isn't it? Because it's a growing sector of the market. Yeah. So one of the challenges was finding, like, ingredients. Right. So actually, there's a company called Grouse Malting, which I think is in Colorado, which I found online somewhere, just researching. And I spoke to them. They were quite helpful. They actually have a lot of ingredients we don't even use, but, you know, one of the challenges I think in gluten-free is getting your beers to taste. You know, they don't really the grains which are used are not, you know, they're not malted in the same way. Yeah. So getting, like, roasted tasted or anything which is particularly malty tasted is difficult. Yeah. Different flavor profiles. And then color can be a little challenging.
Right. Yeah. So that's still important, that aesthetic.
The aesthetic and the mouthfeel. Yeah. So I'm not there yet, by the way. I do hope to get there. Yeah. And I have So I've been working with someone who's quite interested to bring it to market. Yeah.
You mentioned you worked in the shoe industry for quite a bit of time.
Yes.
What did you take from that industry to bring into the brewing industry?
A lot. Yeah. A real lot. I mean, in many senses, it's both consumer product businesses. If you remove the product development, or the development's quite similar as well in many ways, but it's really you're trying to get a product to market, and a lot of the things are the same.
Very similar process.
Yeah. So, shoe development is different from beer development. There are stages, and you don't have prototypes in beer. You have more batches or trial batches. But it's still the same kind of step process. And then when you have a product, it's kind of go time. Obviously in beer, there's a lot more regulation. There's a lot more. You get your beer licensed and all the can labels.
Yeah,
and
TTP, you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know whether anyone else talks about that much when you interview them. Probably not.
Right.
But I'm sure they talk about how they you're getting licensed, because that is a big deal.
It is.
It can take 18 months to 2 years. I don't know what a time frame is now. I have to say the TTB are very. My conversations with them have always been, the individuals there want to be very helpful and help you move along.
That's good.
I haven't got really much bad saying about them. The same with the ABCC. I mean, there is a lot of sort of red tape and hoops to jump through, and it's particularly during coronavirus. It's very confusing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
The rules keep changing, and you don't really know what's okay, what's not okay, and then you see that other people kind of take some liberties with those rules, and you're like, well, I can see why they do, because, if they don't, for one thing, they might go out of business, or if they ask a question, they might just get a no.
Yeah.
So, I very much try to follow all the rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's getting your product to market is very much the same, because you got a product, you got to go to sale, you got to get that out to retail, you got to sell through, you've got your marketing piece where you got to get the right kind of packaging, get the right kind of message. Yeah. And I think it's very hard, particularly as a new brand, to get your message right from the beginning, because you don't know what the consumer's going to react to. I mean, some people can and gain onto them. I think it's hard though, particularly if you're trying to do something a little different. Like if it's tried and true, and you're just going to try and apply something which worked in another state and do it here, and it's been done before, I think that's easier. I do think we've tried to do something which is a little different.
Yeah, but different's okay.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it seems you're working out.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get too far, let's crack open a fresh beer and hear a word from our sponsors.
Hey, Sound Guy Ryan here. Didn't know if you heard, but we're a part of the Hopped Up Network. There you'll find other informative podcasts about beer. So go ahead, follow them on social media, and visit them on their website, hoppedupnetwork.com, to learn more about the people, beer, and breweries from around the country. And until next time, thanks for listening. Cheers. Are you a solo artist, band, podcaster, or anyone else who needs recording services?
Well, we got a place for you where your vision can become a reality.
Welcome to Small Pond Studios, built by hand with heart and sweat equity by musicians for musicians.
Go to smallpondstudios.io to reach out to get more information. And make sure you let them know that Brew Roots sent you.
So we know that you can find the beer here in a couple states outside of Massachusetts. I'm curious, though, you want to get it over in England, you said.
I would love to.
How does the beer scene compare from here to England?
It's changed an enormous amount, I think. It's fun. I got to be a bit careful, but
we have a huge English audience, so you have to be very careful. Yeah, you can hear them right now.
I mean, no, don't get me. I really like a lot of English beers, and I have no problem with the beers which are not carbonated. The warmer beers, fine. Yeah. I find all of that kind of interesting, and I no issues with it whatsoever. When I say I have to be a bit careful, is that I think they were if you go back 10, certainly if you go back 15 years, the American market was boring. Yeah. It was very staid. You had these big domestic brands which dominate, and they, to some extent, they still dominate. Kind of interestingly, Budweiser, Bud Light's still by far the biggest beer in the United States, and you've got Miller core. You got all these brands. They're not terribly interesting. No disrespect to them. Or Michelob Ultra even, which is a brand which you could say we compete with, but only in some broad levels, because they go after a similar audience as they claim to, but the beers are totally different. But then there was an explosion in the craft beer world, as everyone knows, led by IPAs, but not just IPAs. It just went crazy. The number of beers available and the variety, and then suddenly, a lot of home brewers, and a lot of the home brewers tell me now that they basically started brewing because they didn't have anything to buy.
Yeah,
right.
We hear that a lot.
So then they opened a brewery, so everyone gets these options, and it's fantastic. It's amazing. I mean, you can barely even, I work in the industry. I haven't heard of a lot of beers at this point.
Yeah.
And in England, that didn't happen for a long time, and the beers, they had more variety in the beginning, but they were behind, like many countries. I like to see, I'm part South African, and they've had a renaissance in beer production too. All of these countries the craft beer industry has sort of grown, and they've taken their lead from the United States with, IPAs. And the American IPA is not the same as the English IPA. It's not even that close.
Although night and day kind of thing.
It's there's just many more hops in there.
Yeah.
But it's not just IPAs. It's the proliferation of ingredients with the fruit beers and in the varieties in the wit beers, which is certainly not an American style. And the wit beer, I love wit beers, and the varieties there. You got Blue Moon on one side, which kind of represents the old guard, if you like, and even UFO to some extent.
Yep.
But now you've got very flavorful wit beers, and a very strong category. And you couldn't buy these in England, but now if you go there, there's a lot more craft breweries and there's a lot more options. Yeah. It's not as good as here. That's why I say I have to be careful.
Yeah.
But it's progressing.
It's definitely progressing in that. I mean, at the same. Actually, I'll just finish my point there. So, the New England IPAs in the UK are not as good as here. They are really not as good. I'd love someone to. I can't go to England anymore because of coronavirus. You can't.
Right.
Not many flights and.
Yeah.
But I will say on the other side of the coin here is that I don't really know many American brewers making the, a
really good ESP or something.
A brown ale or something.
So in England, as far as I understand, they brew a beer and they have to get it sold within 3 weeks. It has to be drunk within 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That would not work in the United States. There would be no shot. There would be no shot of it working.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason for carbonation and cold storage.
Right.
It allows you to, these New England IPAs, they can last almost like 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But without the cold storage and carbonation, those beers would be funky in about a week. But you can't really get those British styles here. All Americans would complain that the beer's warm and uncarbonated,
right?
And they don't want to drink it, and there's something wrong with it.
So Jeff, what are you drinking at home? What's your drink of choice at home?
ZēLUS almost exclusively because I have quite a lot of it.
Yeah,
right.
My favorite beer right now, especially I drink a lot of our light into dark porter.
Okay.
It's so drinkable, and I run. I just completed. This isn't going to be a personal, but there was a coronavirus turned up, and this guy who we just had on our blog. Actually, you should go to our blog. It's fascinating. This guy created this. He created a lot of different things. One of the things, which there's a movie on now called the guy's called Lazarus Lake. It's not his original name. His original name is Gary Cantrell, and he created something called the Barkley Marathons, which is literally the hardest run in the world.
Okay.
You have to do 5 laps. The course changes each year. Each lap is meant to be around 20 miles, but actually, it usually ends up being 26 miles.
Oh, jeez.
And
so it's a full marathon.
And it's just through the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And quite often, people don't even finish. Either way, it's hard. So he created something called the Great Virtual Race across Tennessee, which it's about 635 miles.
Whew.
And you had 4 months to complete it, and so yeah, I did that during
Nice.
coronavirus.
Wow, good for you.
And after a lot of my long runs, what I was doing, I averaged 8.25 miles per day.
Yeah.
So I did it in 77 days. But I got to tell you that I was nowhere near that. Some people have done, I think, up to 7 back and forwards in the time
Oof.
period.
Wow.
So that's 635 times 7, which
Wow.
A large number.
that's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of running.
Lot
Yeah.
of miles. Holy cow.
And so, yeah, so after I do a long run, I would quite often drink the light into dark.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a dark beer, but they're underrated. If you
Oh,
ask
for
me.
sure.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Guilty pleasure beer?
Oh, so you asked me what beers I drink. So I don't just drink ZēLUS.
Yeah.
I do drink other beers. Let me think. I've always been quite a big fan of Wormtown Bee Hoppy.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That was a good one.
It's a great beer. I did meet Ben Roche once.
Yeah.
He actually taught a course I did. So I've always been quite partial to that beer. I quite like Night Shift Whirlpool.
That is a good beer.
There's a God. You're gonna ask it.
No, that's all right.
There's a what's the brand called? Anita from
Unita.
Unita
Yeah.
from California.
Yeah.
They have a
Yep.
they have a strawberry beer.
Yeah, I know. It was the strawberry blonde.
Yeah, I don't know if it's blonde actually. Maybe it is. That's a really good beer.
Cool.
I quite like fruit beers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I can't drink really are the imperial stouts. They're just too alcoholic for me.
Yeah.
They're tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do quite like some Trillium, the New England IPA Trillium beers.
Oh, for sure.
Treehouse is the other local one. I think I probably lean towards Trillium first.
Yeah.
What else do I like?
Do you have like a guilty pleasure domestic beer?
No.
No.
No. I actually can't drink them at all.
Yeah.
I would not drink.
Yeah.
None of those
Kind of like
big
your
US
competitors, I guess, too, right?
Well, well, no. Although I was saying the Michelob Ultra.
Right. Yeah.
Just because of the audience they go after.
Yes. Yeah. That's all I was thinking, I guess.
But no, I can't drink any of them.
Yeah.
I can't drink any of them. I'm trying to think of some, there are some UK beers I kind of like, and I look forward to buying when I'm there. But they're none of the big ones, because the
Okay.
big ones are like Carling, and Carling Black Label, and I can't really drink that. Just trying to think now. I do quite like Allagash White.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason some of these beers which suddenly become quite big,
Yeah.
because they're just good.
That's
Yeah.
an amazing beer.
Yeah.
That's a
Right?
great
No,
beer.
definitely.
Yeah.
And then they just get on tap and they just stay there.
Yeah.
It's the same
Right.
thing with like some Fiddlehead beers.
Yeah.
They've got a little bit of a niche audience. I'm so wrapped up in my own beers.
Yeah.
Actually.
No,
No,
that's all
that's all
right.
right.
That's
That's all
a good number. That's
Bit,
good.
bit egocentric of me. really.
Yeah,
But there
no,
are
that's
definitely
all
beers
right.
I do enjoy. And I do
Yeah.
enjoy, because we don't brew them particularly, the New England IPAs I do enjoy. Although they've become so prevalent, I have moved away from them a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
Do you have you done any collaborations with any other breweries?
No, we have I briefly discussed doing one with a distillery.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
I know the owners of Bully Boy.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
It's a
Yeah.
local one here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Briefly discussed that. No one else, but I would be open to it. It
Yeah.
could be interesting using some of our proprietary
Yeah. It
methods.
could be cool
on
to
it.
do that.
Yeah.
Not worrying about the low alcohol piece, but doing the
Yeah.
other components to it could actually be
Right.
quite interesting.
Excellent.
I have seen a few brands knock us off recently.
Oh, jeez.
Oh no, we don't have to call them out.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want people to come and try your beer. Is the tap room open for to-go sales?
It is open for curbside pickup. You can go to our website, www.zelusbeer.com,
Yeah.
and you can order straight off there.
Yeah.
As I said, we have a beer garden.
In the plans?
Well, we have a beer garden which is open. Well, it's not a beer garden, sorry. It's a pop-up
Yeah.
Yeah.
locally here. And we sell in all the local accounts here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we just started with a new mass distributor. It's called Icon. They're actually a wine distributor.
Okay.
But they're looking to get into beer.
Cool.
And the bigger beer houses are a little, they have a lot of brands. You can get lost pretty easily.
Definitely.
So if you have a group of individuals which you're important to and they focus on your brand, I think it can work really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to compete with any of these bigger guys. I mean, it's
hard.
I just think that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No. So what days are you open for curbside pickup?
Well, you can order and, we'll be open. We can
Okay.
open anytime.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Saturdays, we've been open.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
what we tend to do is people order, then we sort of collate them all together and have a pickup time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because we sell in so many accounts local to here,
Yeah.
we just keep delivering. I have a bunch of beer I have to deliver right now.
Yeah.
Right
we just
after
keep
right.
delivering to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and you guys are on social media. I want people to go to that blog that you keep on mentioning. Talk about that.
That's you can find it on our website. It's under ZēLUSbeer.com. Get active. There's a lot of individuals on there, and then also we posted on Facebook, Instagram.
Cool.
We actually have 3 Instagram pages.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
geez.
We did that because we have our main one, which is ZēLUS Beer, but then because we have this active part of our brand and we were doing all these different active
Yeah, the races
I
and
didn't
things.
want to overload the main page.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we also did one for the tap room because if we're in another state, the other the people
Yeah,
in the
people
other
might not care in
they don't-
Delaware
Right.
about you
they
guys.
don't care about the tap
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
and equally the people in the tap room don't necessarily care about in Delaware.
Yeah.
Right.
It's become a little less. This is when we're kind of overloaded with content.
Yeah.
Right.
But with events more or less banned, for the want of a
Yes.
better word,
Yes.
That's true.
it's become a little less important.
Yeah.
We're also
Yeah.
on Twitter, but we
We
do.
suck at Twitter too.
We're
so don't
also
even
on
have
Twitter,
to,
so-
it's hard to use.
It's just a different audience. I'm told it's a lot
Yeah.
more men on there, and I'm like, well, don't men drink more beer? We have struggled. I will admit, we've struggled on Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter is a
I think I
struggle.
was happy that we got like 3 retweets, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
you get countless on other apps. Yeah.
I think people who've been on it longer are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. Like ones with big audiences and knowing that they're on Twitter.
Yeah.
We're probably best on Facebook now. The audience is just more interactive.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
small. It's significantly smaller than our
Instagram.
but
Yeah.
it's much more
Engaging, yeah.
much more interactive. Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So Instagram. What can you list off your handles for Instagram?
I think it's ZēLUS Beer, ZēLUS Tap Room, and ZēLUS Get Active. I think.
Yeah.
And then
We'll find him.
I think we're just ZēLUS Beer on Twitter.
Okay. Cool.
We are on Untapped.
Yeah.
We've never done YouTube, although some people do
Yeah.
Yeah.
video pages.
It's hard.
I think in the end you just get kind of, although it's probably more important now than it ever has been because
Yeah.
people sit on their phones all the time and they can't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
But social media
Nice.
you've got to live with it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Erica, your favorite last
Sure. Well, we will go with that. I'd like to just end each episode with what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of being able to found a beer company and to still be in business
Yeah.
4 years later,
Yeah.
and to have maintained the integrity of our brand.
That's important.
So I think that our brand still stands for the same thing it started off, and to be gaining an audience and getting more and more customers. I think you learn as you go,
For sure.
Absolutely.
and it's a journey, but I think we've got a handle on it now.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, Jeff, thank you for doing this today. We really appreciate you taking some time,
Yeah.
and we hope to catch you down the road soon.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time.
Cheers.
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 Well, thank you for making it this far in the episode. I want to thank Jeff from ZēLUS Brewing for taking the time to do this interview. We had a lot of fun. I want to say, it's really cool that he's doing something different in the brewing industry.
Yeah.
Low ABV. His beers with like the added salt and like the mineral profiles, I think really makes his beer stand out from a lot of other people.
For sure.
He's doing something different, and he has that targeted
He has a
audience.
niche that he's really
very
trying to hit,
niche, whatever you want to, however you say it.
Potato.
Yeah, exactly. I just really dig what he's doing, and I can't wait to see what he does next. Other than that, I just want to make sure that you guys take the time this week. The only thing that we want you to do.
The only thing
is write a review.
Right meow.
Just take the time on your lunch break or when you get home, whenever you have a couple seconds, just write a review for us. We want to hear your feedback, and we want to know what we need to change, what you like, and what we can do better.
Exactly.
So other than that, until next week, we got a pretty cool episode planned for you. We're not going to say what it is because we never do. And even if we do, it never happens. We always do something completely different. So why would we bother saying what we're going to do?
Bother?
Exactly. So until next week.
Cheers.